You want to know how the Terran expansion became the nightmare that keeps every military academy instructor awake at night? Well, let me tell you about the day I learned why you never, ever put a human on defense duty without checking their communications equipment first. My name is Krell. Just Krell. Among the Vaxorian Empire, I held the rank of Fleet Tactical Coordinator. And notice I said held. Past tense. Because after what happened at Outpost Gamma 7, they decided I needed a nice long vacation reviewing supply manifests on a moon base where nothing ever happens. But I am getting ahead of myself. It started on what should have been a routine patrol cycle. The war against the Terran Alliance had been dragging on for 3 standard years, not because we could not defeat them, mind you. The humans were outnumbered, outgunned, and operating with technology that we had surpassed 2 centuries ago. No, the war dragged on, because every single time we thought we had them cornered, they would do something so monumentally stupid that it somehow worked. My command called it tactical unpredictability. I called it luck mixed with insanity. Outpost Gamma 7 sat on the edge of the disputed zone, a chunk of rock barely worth the fuel it took to reach it, but it controlled the approach to 3 major shipping lanes. Whoever held Gamma 7 could strangle supply lines for half a sector. So naturally, both sides wanted it. The outpost itself was not much to look at. Prefabricated bunkers, defense turrets that had seen better days, and a shield generator that worked about 60% of the time. We had a garrison of 40 soldiers. The humans had managed to sneak in a team of 12 during the last shift change. 12 soldiers, holding a position against 40. The odds were in our favor. That should have been my first warning. I was aboard the command carrier Relentless, monitoring the situation from a comfortable distance. My second in command, a cautious fellow named Torque, had suggested we just bombard the outpost from orbit and be done with it. Why waste troops? He had said, all 4 of his eyes blinking in that way that meant he was genuinely confused. We blast them, we take the rubble, we rebuild. Simple. And he was right. It would have been simple. But High Command wanted the base intact. Something about cost efficiency and resource allocation. The bureaucrats always wanted things intact. So we sent in our ground forces. Commander Vrill led the assault team. Good soldier. 12 years of service, countless commendations, never lost a major engagement. He was professional, by the book, exactly the kind of officer you wanted running an operation like this. The plan was textbook. Surround the compound, cut off their communications, offer surrender terms, then breach and clear if they refused. We had done this 100 times before. Vrill's team moved into position just after the local sunrise. Gamma 7's sun was a pale yellow thing, barely strong enough to warm the rocks. Through the tactical feed, I watched our soldiers take up their positions with practiced efficiency. All units in place, Coordinator Vrill reported. His voice was calm, collected. Preparing to broadcast surrender terms. Proceed, I said, sipping my morning stimulant drink. This would be over by midday meal. The communications officer opened a channel to the outpost. Standard protocol. Identify yourself, explain the situation, give them a chance to walk away. Attention, Terran forces, Vrill's voice echoed across the barren landscape. You are surrounded and outnumbered. Power down your weapons and exit the compound. You have 10 standard minutes to comply. Silence. Why? Torque leaned over my shoulder, breathing that awful recycled air smell he always had. Think they will surrender? Humans usually do when the math is this obvious, I said. They are stubborn, not suicidal. Oh, how wrong I was. 9 minutes passed. Then 9.5. Our soldiers tightened their perimeter, weapons ready. The defense turrets on the outpost remained silent, powered down. Maybe they were being smart for once. At the 10-minute mark, the communications channel crackled to life. Yeah, hi, this is Outpost Gamma 7. The voice was young, male, with that peculiar Terran accent that made every sentence sound like a question. Got your message. Interesting proposal. Here is our counter-offer. How about you folks head on back to your ship? We keep the base, and nobody has to get hurt today. Torque's mandibles dropped open. Did he just? They cannot be serious. Vrill's voice came through on the command channel, professional as always. Coordinator requesting permission to breach. Granted, I said. Try to minimize casualties on our side. The humans can make their own choices. What happened next unfolded with the kind of precision that made me proud to serve in the Vaxorian military. Breach charges on 3 entry points. Synchronized detonation. Flash grenades through the openings. Assault teams moving in with perfect formation. They made it exactly 4 meters into the compound before the universe decided to remind me that humans do not play by normal rules. The first indication something was wrong came when Vrill's audio feed cut off mid-shout. Then the video feed started going dark, not all at once. That would have suggested an EMP or coordinated jamming. No, they went out one by one, in sequence, like someone was methodically removing pieces from a game board. What is happening down there? I demanded, leaning forward in my command chair. Vrill, report. Report. Static. Any unit report. More static than a broken transmission. They are in the walls. How are they in the walls? The walls are not that thick. Torque was frantically working his console. I am reading weapons fire, multiple locations, but I cannot get a clear tactical picture. The base's internal sensors are all offline. Then bring them back online. I am trying. Something is interfering with the signal. No, wait. He paused, all 4 eyes widening. Coordinator, they are not interfering with the signal. They are playing music through it. What? What? He turned up the audio feed. Sure enough, underneath the static and weapons fire, I could hear it. Some kind of Terran music. Loud, aggressive, with a pounding rhythm that made my head hurt. Who fights to music? I muttered. Humans, apparently, Torque said. He did not sound amused. The next 20 minutes were chaos. And yes, I know I am not supposed to use that word, but there is no other way to describe it. Our soldiers were trained for urban combat, for trench warfare, for ship-to-ship boarding actions. They were not trained for whatever nightmare the humans had turned that base into. Reports came in fragments. Booby traps in every corridor. Automated turrets in unexpected positions. Weak walls that were actually doorways. Real walls that exploded when you touched them. And through it all, those 12 humans, moving like ghosts, hitting our forces from angles that should not have existed. North team is down. Someone shouted over the comm. All of them. They walked into a corridor and something just, I do not even know what happened. There was a flash, and they were gone. East team requesting medical support. We have wounded. How do they keep getting behind us? Thems. They are using the air circulation system. Who fits in those? Those are not human-sized. Turns out humans are very flexible when motivated. By the 30-minute mark, Vrill managed to re-establish command and control. Sort of. Half his team was combat ineffective. The other half was scattered through a base that had apparently been converted into a death trap designed by someone who really understood the concept of defensive preparation. Pull back, I ordered. Regroup outside the compound. We will reassess. Negative, Vrill responded. His voice had taken on that tight, clipped quality that meant he was bleeding from somewhere. We have them contained in the central bunker. 3 more minutes, and we can end this. Commander, your casualty rate is unacceptable. Withdraw, and we will try a different approach. Coordinator, with respect, we have come this far. My soldiers have bled for this. 3 more minutes. I should have overruled him. That is what the inquiry board said later. I should have recognized the signs of a tactical situation spiraling beyond acceptable parameters. But Vrill was right about one thing. We had committed forces. Withdrawing now would mean those casualties were for nothing. 3 minutes, I said. Then you pull back regardless of the situation. Understood. Torque gave me a look. I ignored it. The assault on the central bunker began with a shaped charge that should have blown the reinforced door clean off its hinges. Instead, it barely dented the thing. Turns out the humans had welded additional plating on the inside, because of course they had. Plan B involved cutting torches. 2 minutes of work, and they had a hole large enough to push grenades through. Standard suppression tactics. Stun the defenders, rush in while they were disoriented. They pushed 4 grenades through the hole. All 4 came flying back out. "Fall back," Vrill shouted. Grenade. The explosion took out another 3 soldiers. The humans had modified the grenade's timers. Later, when I reviewed the combat footage, I could see they had been thrown back through the hole with perfect precision, landing exactly where they would do maximum damage to the clustered assault team. That was when I started to suspect that maybe, just maybe, we were not dealing with an ordinary defense force. "Enough," I said into the comm. "Vrill, I am ordering a full withdrawal. Get your people out of there now. Coordinator, we can still." "Now, Commander." "Yes, sir. All units, fall back to Rally Point Beta. Fighting withdrawal by the numbers." A fighting withdrawal is a beautiful thing when executed properly. Covering fire, leapfrogging positions, maintaining defensive coherence while disengaging from the enemy. Our soldiers were trained for it. They did everything right. The humans, naturally, did not cooperate. As our forces began pulling back, the humans came out to play. And by play, I mean they started hunting. See, here is something they do not tell you in officer training. Humans have this thing called adrenaline. It is a chemical their bodies produce in stress situations. Makes them faster, stronger, more aggressive, and apparently removes their sense of self-preservation. Most species have something similar, but human adrenaline turns them into something that should not exist outside of predator species. The tactical feeds showed our soldiers executing their withdrawal perfectly. Then they showed a human, just one, appearing from what looked like a solid wall. He moved with a speed that should not have been possible for something wearing that much armor and carrying that many weapons. 3 of our soldiers went down before anyone could react. Then he was gone again. Back into the walls, the vents, the shadows, I could not tell. He just vanished like he had never been there. Contact rear. We have contact rear. West side. They are on the west side. Above us. How are they above us? There is no above in that corridor. Torque was shaking his head. Coordinator, I am reading impossible movement patterns. They are appearing in locations they should not be able to reach. Teleportation? Humans do not have teleportation technology. Then what am I looking at? I have no idea. The withdrawal turned into a rout. I hate using that word. It implies a lack of discipline, a breakdown of order. Our soldiers maintained their training, followed their protocols, did everything they were supposed to do. But sometimes training is not enough. Sometimes you run into an enemy that simply does not care about the rules you are playing by. By the time our forces made it back to the rally point, we had lost 22 soldiers, more than half the assault team, against 12 defenders. The math did not work. The logic did not work. Nothing about this situation worked. Vrill's voice came through, barely above a whisper. "Coordinator, I need medical evacuation for 14 wounded. Some of them are critical. Evacuation team is on the way." "Commander, what happened down there?" A long pause. "I do not know, sir. I have been fighting for 12 years. I have never seen anything like this. They knew where we would be before we got there. They knew what we would do before we did it. It was like they were reading our playbook and using it against us." "Did you get a visual on any of them?" "I saw one. Just one. At the end, when we were pulling back." Another pause. "He was laughing, sir. We had just lost 5 good soldiers, and he was laughing. That sent a chill through my spine. Get your people to safety. We will handle this from orbit." "With respect, Coordinator, I do not think orbit is far enough." I signed off and leaned back in my chair. Torque was already working on the bombardment solution, calculating firing solutions that would level the compound without damaging the surrounding area too badly. "Ready when you are, sir," he said. "Wait." I pulled up the tactical map, studying it. Something was bothering me. How many humans did we confirm as casualties? Torque checked his console. 0 confirmed. Possible casualties from the initial breach, but no bodies recovered. We lost 22 soldiers and did not kill a single human. That is what the data shows. I sat there, staring at the map, trying to process what that meant. We had hit them with overwhelming force. We had breached their defenses. We had them outnumbered, outgunned, and cornered. And we had achieved nothing except getting our own people killed. "Sir?" Torque prompted. "The bombardment?" "Hold on that." I opened a channel to High Command. They needed to know what we were dealing with before I made a decision this big. Admiral Kor answered, looking annoyed at being disturbed. "Coordinator Krell, I assume you are calling to report that Outpost Gamma 7 is secured?" "Not exactly, Admiral." His expression darkened. "Explain." I did. All of it. The failed assault, the impossible tactics, the casualties. When I finished, Kor was silent for a long moment. 12 humans, he finally said. 12 humans held off 40 of our soldiers? "Yes, sir." "Yes, sir." "And you want to bombard the outpost?" "I see no other option. Every minute we wait gives them time to further fortify or call for reinforcements." Kor drummed his fingers on his desk, thinking. "No. Bombing the base defeats the purpose of taking it. We need those facilities intact. Admiral, with respect, we need those facilities without holes in them less than we need our soldiers alive. Your concern is noted. Here is what we are going to do. Pull your ground forces back to a safe distance. Set up a perimeter. We are sending reinforcements. A full battalion, plus armored support. If 12 humans can hold that base, I want to see what they do against 200 soldiers with proper heavy equipment. A battalion. Or 12 defenders. The waste of resources was staggering. But I was not about to argue with an admiral. "Understood, sir. What is the timeline for reinforcements?" 48 hours. "Can you maintain containment until then?" "Yes, sir." "Good. And Krell, do not let them escape. I want those humans captured and interrogated. I want to know how they did this." The channel closed. Torque looked at me. "A battalion?" "You heard the Admiral. 12 humans. This is insane. Welcome to war with the Terrans. Nothing makes sense and the math is always wrong." We set up the perimeter. Long-range sensors, automated defenses, patrol patterns that would make it impossible for anyone to slip through. Our soldiers were nervous. I could see it in the way they triple-checked their equipment and kept glancing at the compound. Word had spread about what happened to the assault team. That night, I could not sleep. I kept reviewing the tactical data, trying to find the pattern. How had they done it? How had 12 defenders inflicted that kind of damage? The base layout was standard. The defensive positions were predictable. There was no secret weapon, no advanced technology. Just humans and their apparently unlimited capacity for turning bad situations into nightmares for everyone else. My console beeped. Incoming transmission from the outpost. I almost ignored it. What could they possibly have to say? Curiosity won. I opened the channel. It was a video feed. A human face filled the screen. Young, maybe mid-20s in Terran years. Dark hair, bright eyes, and a smile that suggested he knew something I did not. "Hey there," he said, cheerful as someone calling a friend. "I am guessing you are whoever is in charge up there?" "Name is Tommy." "Well, Corporal Thomas Vale, if we are being formal, but Tommy works fine." I stared at the screen. "What do you want?" "Oh, just wanted to say thanks for earlier." That was a good workout. My team was starting to get bored, you know. Garrison duty can be pretty dull, so thanks for spicing things up. "You are welcome," I said, not sure how else to respond to that. "Also, I wanted to give you guys some advice. Free of charge, because I am a nice guy." His smile widened. "You might want to rethink whatever you are planning next. I know you have got reinforcements coming. Probably a lot of them, right? And you are thinking, how could 12 people possibly hold against that many?" He leaned closer to the camera. "The thing is, see, you are making an assumption. You are assuming we are trying to hold this base. That we are stuck here, hoping we can last until our people bail us out." A pause. That smile never wavered. "But here is the thing about humans, buddy. We do not get stuck places. We choose to be places. And if we have chosen to be here, in this specific base, at this specific time, well, maybe you should ask yourself why." The transmission cut off. I sat there in the darkness of my quarters, staring at the blank screen. A cold feeling was spreading through my chest. "Torque," I said into my comm. "I need you to run a deep scan of that base. Every system, every structure, every shadow. I want to know what is really going on down there." "Sir? It is the middle of the sleep cycle. I do not care. Do it now." 2 hours later, Torque called me to the command center. His expression told me everything I needed to know before he even opened his mouth. "Coordinator, you need to see this." He brought up a schematic of the base. It looked normal at first glance. Standard layout, expected systems, nothing unusual. But then he highlighted a series of modifications. Subtle changes to the power grid. Rerouted fuel lines. Reinforced structural supports in unexpected places. Individually, they meant nothing. Together, they have been modifying the base for weeks, Torque said quietly. Maybe longer. This is not a defensive position. This is a trap. A trap for what? He pulled up another screen. Energy readings from the base's reactor. They had been climbing steadily for days, far beyond normal operational parameters. "They are overloading it," I said, my blood turning cold. "They are turning the entire base into a bomb." "A very large bomb," Torque confirmed. "If it goes off with our reinforcements in the area, we are looking at catastrophic casualties." I stood there, pieces falling into place. The stubborn defense. The impossible tactics. The way they had let us withdraw instead of pursuing. They had not been trying to win. They had been buying time. Time for the reactor to reach critical mass. "Get me Admiral Core. Now." But before Torque could open the channel, every alarm on the ship started screaming. Hull breach warnings. Collision alerts. Weapons fire detected. What the hell? I ran to the tactical station. The display showed chaos. Ships, dozens of them, dropping out of faster-than-light travel right on top of our position. Terran ships. The reinforcements we had been worried about the humans calling. Except they had not called for reinforcements. They had called for an invasion fleet. And we, sitting in our nice predictable perimeter around a base that was about to explode, were right in the middle of their kill zone. "All ships, evasive maneuvers," I shouted. "Get us away from that base. Move, 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 move. Too slow. We were always too slow when it came to humans." The Terran fleet opened fire, targeting not us, but the space around us. Mines. They were seeding the area with mines, cutting off our escape routes, herding us like animals toward the very place we were trying to flee from. Down on the surface, I could see the base's shields flickering to life. All power. Which meant the reactor was about to brace for impact. I grabbed my command chair. The explosion was beautiful in a terrible way. The entire outpost turned into a miniature sun, expanding outward in a sphere of complete destruction. Our perimeter forces never had a chance. The blast wave caught 3 of our frigates before they could get clear. And through it all, I realized something that made my blood freeze. The humans were gone. Tommy and his 11 teammates had evacuated before the explosion. The base had been empty when it blew. They had held us there, made us commit forces, made us call for reinforcements, all so they could set up this perfect ambush. We had walked right into it, and they had walked right out, laughing the whole way. On my main screen, a new transmission came through. It was Tommy again, this time aboard what looked like a Terran transport ship, safely away from the blast zone. "Sorry about the mess," he said, not looking sorry at all. "But hey, you guys really should have retreated when Commander Vrill told you to." "Oh wait," he paused, that insufferable smile growing wider. "I forgot. I was jamming his communications." "He probably never even gave that order, did he?" My hands clenched on the armrests. "See you around, Coordinator Krell. Try not to take it personally. This is just war." "And in war?" He shrugged. "Sometimes the humans do not hear you when you say retreat." The transmission ended. I sat there, watching our fleet scramble to respond to the Terran attack, watching good ships and good soldiers die because of one human who had decided that following the rules was optional. That was the day I learned the real lesson about fighting humans. It is not that they are stronger or smarter or more advanced. It is that they approach war like it is a game where the only rule is there are no rules. And if you try to fight them using logic, tactics, and proper military doctrine, you have already lost. The battle that followed was a disaster. We lost the outpost, obviously, but we also lost 7 ships, over 300 soldiers, and any illusion that the war with humanity was going to be quick or easy. As for Corporal Thomas Vale and his team, they were decorated as heroes by the Terran Alliance. The defense of Outpost Gamma 7 became required reading at their military academies. And I got my transfer to that lovely quiet moon base where nothing ever happens. Sometimes, late at night, I still hear that music they were playing during the assault. That pounding, aggressive rhythm. I looked it up later. It is called heavy metal. Apparently humans like to listen to it when they are doing violence. Of course they do. So there I was, sitting on Moonbase Theta 9, watching inventory spreadsheets scroll across my screen and wondering how my life had come to this. 3 months had passed since the disaster at Outpost Gamma 7. 3 months of counting supply crates and filing requisition forms while the war continued without me. You might think I would be grateful for the break. Safe posting, no combat, plenty of time to rest and recover from the trauma of watching everything go wrong in the most spectacular way possible. But here is the thing about getting reassigned to a dead-end job. It gives you way too much time to think. And what I kept thinking about was Tommy Vale, that smug human face on my screen, that casual tone as he explained how he had completely destroyed my career. The way he had said sorry without meaning it even a little bit. It ate at me. Not because I wanted revenge or anything dramatic like that, but because I needed to understand. How did they think like that? How did 12 soldiers look at 40 enemies and decide that the best course of action was to turn their own base into a bomb? What kind of species operates on that level of controlled insanity? Torque visited me once during those 3 months. Good old Torque, still working on the Relentless, still doing actual important military work while I tallied up how many ration packs we had in storage. "You look terrible," he said, settling into the chair across from my desk. "Thank you. I have been working on the look, going for distinguished suffering with hints of bureaucratic despair. Still thinking about the outpost? Every single day." He sighed, all 4 eyes blinking in that sympathetic way he had. "You need to let it go, Krell. What happened was not your fault. The humans outplayed us. It happens." "Does it? Does it really happen that we get outplayed by an enemy using inferior technology and smaller numbers? Because from where I sit, that should not be possible. There has to be something we are missing, some factor we are not accounting for." "There is. It is called human psychology, and I am pretty sure it does not follow any known scientific model." Torque leaned forward. "You want my advice? Stop trying to understand them. Just accept that humans are unpredictable and move on with your life." "I cannot." "Why? Why not?" Good question. Why could I not just accept it and move on? Why did this bother me so much more than all the other losses, all the other tactical setbacks in 3 years of war? Because, I said slowly, working it out as I spoke, if we cannot understand how they think, we cannot predict what they will do. And if we cannot predict what they will do, we cannot win this war. We will just keep throwing soldiers at them until either we run out of soldiers or they get bored and decide to leave. Torque was quiet for a moment. Then he reached into his carry bag and pulled out a data chip. Do not tell anyone I gave you this. What is it? What is it? After the battle, High Command did a full intelligence review. Pulled together everything we know about human military doctrine, psychology, cultural factors, trying to build a predictive model. He placed the chip on my desk. It did not work. The model failed every single test simulation. But the research is interesting. Maybe it will help you find whatever it is you are looking for. He left shortly after that. I stared at the data chip for a good 10 minutes before loading it into my terminal. The file was massive. Thousands of pages of analysis, interview transcripts, combat footage, psychological profiles. I started reading at the beginning of my work shift. When I looked up again, it was 4 hours past the end of my shift and my eyes hurt. But I had found something interesting. Buried in the cultural analysis section, there was a report about human military traditions. Apparently humans have this concept called esprit de corps. Roughly translated, it means the spirit of the group. But it is more than that. It is a shared identity, a collective pride in being part of something larger than yourself. Most species have something similar. What made humans different was the intensity of it. When humans formed these bonds, they would do things that made no logical sense from an individual survival perspective. They would stay in hopeless situations. They would fight against impossible odds. They would sacrifice themselves for the group without hesitation. The report had a quote from a human soldier, captured during one of the early battles. The interrogator had asked why his unit had not surrendered when surrounded and outnumbered. Because my buddies were counting on me, the human had said. You do not leave your people behind. You do not quit when it gets hard. That is not who we are. I read that quote 5 times. Then I went back through the combat footage from Outpost Gamma 7, looking at it with new eyes. Tommy Vale had not been fighting to hold the base. He had been fighting to give his team time to set the trap. Every tactic, every impossible maneuver, every calculated risk had been about keeping his 11 teammates alive long enough to complete the mission. And when it was done, when the trap was set and the fleet was in position, he had gotten all of them out. Not 10 out of 12, not even 11 out of 12. All 12. 0 casualties. That was not luck. That was someone who cared more about his soldiers than he cared about his own safety. Someone who would walk into a nightmare situation because his people were counting on him. It was admirable in a terrifying sort of way. My console beeped. Incoming priority transmission. I almost ignored it. Priority transmissions on a moon base usually meant someone needed an emergency supply of something boring. But the sender code was from Admiral Korr's office. It got my attention. I opened the channel. It was not Korr himself, but his aide, a nervous young officer named Pell. Coordinator Krell. The Admiral requests your presence aboard the fleet flagship immediately. Requests or orders? Orders, sir. A transport will arrive in 2 hours. Pack for extended deployment. The channel closed before I could ask questions. 2 hours later, I was on a fast courier heading back to the fleet. No explanation, no briefing, just pack your things and get on the ship. Either I was being reassigned again or something very bad had happened. Turned out it was the latter. Admiral Korr met me in his ready room. He looked older than the last time I had seen him, more tired. The war was wearing on everyone. Coordinator Krell. Thank you for coming quickly. I was not aware I had a choice, sir. He almost smiled at that. Almost. Sit down. We need to talk about the human problem. Which human problem specifically? Because in my experience there are several. The Tommy Vale problem. Oh no. Core pulled up a tactical display. It showed the current frontline positions. The Terran Alliance had been pushing hard in the 3 months since Gamma 7. Not everywhere, but in specific strategic locations, supply depots, communication hubs, fleet staging areas. Notice anything? Core asked. I studied the map. The targets were all different, scattered across multiple sectors. No obvious pattern. Unless they are all support infrastructure, I said. Not frontline combat positions. They are hitting us where it hurts our ability to sustain operations. Correct. And do you know who has been leading most of these raids? Let me guess. Corporal Thomas Vale, Captain Thomas Vale now. The humans promoted him after Gamma 7. And they have been giving him free rein to run operations however he sees fit. Captain. They had promoted him. Of course they had. Probably gave him a medal too. What does this have to do with me? I asked, though I was starting to suspect the answer. Core leaned back in his chair. You are the only officer we have who has faced Vale directly and lived to document the experience. You have studied his tactics, analyzed his methods. High Command wants you to put together a task force specifically designed to counter him. Sir, with respect, I lost that engagement. Badly. Why would you want me in charge of stopping him? Because everyone else who has fought him either died or refuses to talk about it. At least you are willing to admit what happened and learn from it. That puts you ahead of most of our senior staff. He had a point, unfortunately. What kind of resources are we talking about? Whatever you need. Ships, soldiers, equipment. High Command is taking this seriously. Vale has become a symbol for the Terran military. Their other units see what he accomplishes and they try to replicate it. He is making them all more dangerous. I thought about it. The smart move would be to refuse. Say thank you but no thank you. Send me back to my nice quiet moon base where the worst thing that can happen is a decimal point error on an inventory form. But I could not do that. Because Torque had been right. I needed to understand. And the only way to understand Tommy Vale was to face him again. I will do it, I said. On one condition. Name it. I want full tactical autonomy. No interference from High Command. If I am going to hunt Vale, I need to be able to think like him. And that means breaking a lot of standard protocols. Core studied me for a long moment. Granted. But Krell understand this. If you fail, if Vale outplays you again, there will not be a third chance. You will spend the rest of your career counting supply crates, assuming you survive. Understood, sir. 3 weeks later, I had my task force assembled. Smaller than you might expect. 2 frigates, 3 gunships, and 200 hand-picked soldiers. I could have requested more. Core had said whatever I needed. But more was not always better. Vale had proven that. My second in command was a young officer named Drex. Smart, adaptable, and most importantly, willing to question orders if they seemed wrong. I needed people who could think, not just follow commands. So, Drex said, reviewing the mission brief, we are hunting a single human? We are hunting a philosophy, I corrected. Vale is not important because he is a great soldier. He is important because he represents everything dangerous about human military thinking. If we can counter him, we can counter all of them. And how do we do that? Good question. How do you counter an enemy who does not care about the odds? Who will turn any situation into an advantage? Who fights like the rules are suggestions rather than requirements? You stop playing by rules too. We are going to do something that will probably get us court-martialed if it does not work, I said. We are going to think like humans. Drex looked worried. Is that safe? Absolutely not. But it is necessary. I had spent the 3 weeks studying everything we had on human tactics. Not just Vale, but their entire military history. And I had found something interesting. Humans loved patterns. They would find something that worked and then refine it, optimize it, turn it into doctrine. Vale was good at improvisation, but even improvisation has patterns if you look hard enough. He liked turning defensive positions into traps. He preferred mobile warfare over static defense. He valued his soldiers' lives over mission objectives. That last part was key. It was admirable, sure. But it was also a weakness. Because if he cared about his people, that meant he could be predictable when they were threatened. Our first real intelligence break came 5 weeks into the operation. One of our listening posts picked up encrypted Terran communications, military-grade encryption, but our analysis team was good. They cracked it in 2 days. It was a mission brief. Captain Vale's unit was being deployed to hit one of our supply depots in the Outer Reach sector. They would arrive in 6 days. It could be a trap, Drex warned. Maybe they want us to find this. Set up an ambush. Possible. Probable, even. But here is the thing about traps. They only work if the target does what you expect them to do. So we do something unexpected? Exactly. The supply depot was a low-value target. Some fuel reserves, spare parts, nothing critical. But it was located near a civilian shipping lane. If Vale hit it, there would be collateral damage. Civilian casualties. But humans hated civilian casualties. It went against their whole moral code. So if I was Vale, I would plan the operation to minimize that risk. Hit fast, hit precise, get out before anyone knew what was happening, which meant he would need a small team. Maybe 20 soldiers at most. Fast insertion, probably using stealth tech to avoid our sensors. Here is what we are going to do, I told Drex. We are going to let him take the depot. Sir? We are going to evacuate all personnel except for a skeleton crew. Make it look normal, but reduce the actual people at risk. Then we are going to position our fleet not at the depot, but along his most likely escape routes. We are setting a trap for the trap setter. Now you are thinking like a human. The next 6 days were tense. We had to make everything look normal. Regular patrol patterns, standard communications. No indication we knew what was coming. On the day of the expected attack, I was aboard the frigate Silent Wing, positioned 3 million kilometers from the depot, far enough to avoid detection, close enough to intercept once Vale's team made their move. The attack came right on schedule. Stealth insertion, exactly as predicted. 22 human soldiers, moving with that terrifying efficiency they were famous for. They hit the depot's defense grid, disabled it in under 2 minutes, and began planting charges on the fuel storage tanks. I watched it all through the remote sensors we had hidden around the facility. Vale was there, directing his team with hand signals. Professional. Focused. No wasted movement. They are in, Drex reported. Setting charges. We have maybe 10 minutes before they extract. Wait for it. Let them commit. 8 minutes. The charges were armed. Vale's team began moving toward their extraction point. A small stealth ship hidden in a nearby asteroid field. Now, I said, all units move to intercept, cut off their escape route. Our ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel exactly where I had calculated. Between Vale's team and their ride home. Perfect positioning, perfect timing. For about 30 seconds, I thought we had won. Then everything went sideways. Again, because of course it did. The stealth ship Vale's team was using exploded. Just boom, gone. Except it was not an accident. They had rigged it to blow. And when it did, the explosion created a massive electromagnetic pulse that scrambled every sensor in the area. I cannot see anything, Drex shouted. All tactical displays are blank. Switch to backup systems. They are affected too. Whatever that pulse was, it hit everything electronic in a 5 million kilometer radius. Blind. We were completely blind. And somewhere in that sensor blackout, Vale and his 22 soldiers were making their escape. It took us 4 hours to restore partial sensor functionality. By then, the humans were long gone. The depot was destroyed, and we had nothing to show for our carefully planned ambush except the realization that we had been outplayed again. I sat in my command chair, staring at the blank tactical display, and started laughing. Drex looked at me like I had lost my mind. "Sir? Are you all right?" "No, not even a little bit." "Do you know what just happened?" "We failed?" "We failed because I tried to think like a human. I predicted what Vale would do. I set up the perfect counter, and he still won. Because he predicted that I would predict him. So he set up a counter to my counter. That is insane. That is humans." I shook my head, still laughing. "We are not just fighting an enemy. We are fighting an enemy that assumes we are as smart as they are and plans accordingly. How do you counter that? How do you fight someone who gives you credit for being intelligent and then uses that against you?" Drex had no answer. Neither did I. That night, I sent a message to Admiral Core. Brief, professional, and honest. "Sir, Task Force has engaged Captain Vale twice now. Both times he has evaded capture using tactics that should not work but somehow do, requesting permission to try a different approach. Instead of hunting him, I want to talk to him." The response came back within an hour. "Request denied. Your mission is to neutralize the threat, not make friends with it." Fair enough. But the idea would not leave my head. What if we stopped trying to beat them and started trying to understand them? What if we asked questions instead of shooting? Crazy idea. Completely against protocol. He would probably get me reassigned to an even worse posting than the moon base. I did it anyway. It took some work to set up a secure communication channel that the humans would trust. I had to go through 3 intermediaries, use 2 black market communication brokers, and promise favors I probably could not deliver. But eventually I got a message through to the Terran Alliance command structure. "Captain Vale. This is Coordinator Krell, the officer whose career you destroyed at Gamma 7. I would like to speak with you. Not a trap, not a trick. Just a conversation. If you are interested, respond to this frequency." I did not expect a response. Why would he? We were enemies. We had been trying to kill each other for months. The response came 3 hours later. "Coordinator Krell. This is Captain Tommy Vale. I remember you. Sure, I will talk. Always happy to chat with fans. Same frequency, tomorrow at 1400 Standard Time. Do not be late." Fans. He called me a fan. I showed up 10 minutes early. Because that is what you do when someone has beaten you twice and you are hoping to learn why. The video feed connected right on time. There was Tommy Vale, looking relaxed and completely at ease. He had grown a beard since the last time I saw him. Made him look older, more dangerous. "Coordinator Krell," he said, like we were old friends meeting for drinks. "Good to see you again. How have you been? Still assigned to that fleet, or did they bench you after our little encounter?" "They benched me. Then they brought me back specifically to stop you." I am flattered. Really, they put together a whole task force just for me? That is sweet. 200 soldiers, 6 ships, unlimited budget. He whistled. Fancy. And yet, here we are. 2 encounters, 2 wins for Team Human. Not criticizing, just observing. What can I do for you today? I took a breath. I want to understand how you think. Well, that got his attention. The casual smile faded, replaced by something more serious, more real. Why? Because I cannot beat you if I do not understand you. And I do not mean you specifically. I mean humans in general. You fight in ways that make no sense. You take risks that should get you killed. You win battles you should lose. How? Vale leaned back in his chair, considering. That is a big question. You got time for a long answer? I have nothing but time. All right, here is the thing, Krell. Can I call you Krell? Feels weird saying coordinator every time. Krell is fine. Cool. So here is the thing, Krell. You guys fight wars like they are math problems. You calculate the odds, optimize your resources, minimize risk. Makes sense. Very logical. And that is wrong? Not wrong. Just limited. Because war is not just math. It is psychology. It is emotion. It is people making decisions under stress when everything is going wrong and there is no right answer. He paused. You want to know my secret? It is not that I am smarter than you. It is that I am willing to be stupid in useful ways. Explain. Okay, take Gamma 7. You sent in 40 soldiers. Professional, well-trained by the book. Everything they did made perfect sense. Stack the odds in your favor. Minimize exposure. Follow doctrine. Textbook assault. And you turned it into a bloodbath. Because I ignored the textbook. I did not try to win the battle. I tried to make you think you were winning while we set up the real play. Your guys were executing a plan. My guys were executing controlled chaos designed to look like desperate defense. So you lied. I misdirected. Big difference. In war, if your enemy thinks they know what you are doing, you have already won. You just have to wait for them to walk into it. I thought about that. And the electromagnetic pulse at the depot? You knew we would intercept your extraction. Course I did. You are smart, Krell. I knew you would crack our communications eventually, but I even knew it was a trap. So I had to make you think we were walking into your trap while we were actually setting up a bigger trap that accounted for your trap. He grinned. Traps all the way down. That is exhausting. Tell me about it. I barely sleep anymore. But that is leadership, right? You carry the weight so your team does not have to. There it was again. The thing that made him different. He cared about his soldiers more than he cared about winning. Why do you do it? I asked. You could request a desk job, training position, get out of combat. You have proven yourself. Rail's expression hardened. Because someone has to. And because the people I serve with deserve a leader who will bring them home. All of them. Every single time. That is not realistic. People die in war. Yeah, they do. But not because I gave up on them. Not because I took a shortcut or made a bad call to save my own skin. If one of my soldiers dies, it is going to be because we tried everything and it still was not enough. Not because I did not care enough to try. The conviction in his voice was absolute. This was not bravado or propaganda. He meant every word. We are very different, you and I said. Are we? You came back to fight me, even though it could end your career. You are trying to understand instead of just following orders. Sounds to me like you care too. You just express it differently. He had a point. Damn him. So what happens now? I asked. We keep fighting until one of us dies or the war ends? Probably. Unless you want to surrender? I promise we will treat you well. 3 meals a day, clean quarters, all the inventory spreadsheets you can handle. I actually smiled at that. Tempting. But no, I think I need to see this through. Fair enough? Hey, Krell? For what it is worth? I respect what you are trying to do. Most officers would have just kept throwing soldiers at the problem. You are actually trying to learn. That is rare. Thank you. I think. One more thing. Next time we meet, I am not going to go easy on you just because we had a nice chat. You understand that, right? I would be disappointed if you did. The transmission ended. I sat there for a long time, thinking about what he had said, about useful stupidity, about caring enough to try, about carrying weight so others did not have to. Drex found me an hour later, still sitting in the dark communication room. Sir? Did you actually talk to him? I did. And? Bend. And I learned that we have been fighting this war all wrong. We have been trying to beat them with superior tactics and better resources. But that is not how you beat humans. You beat humans by being willing to sacrifice as much as they do. by caring as much as they care, by being just as crazy as they are. That sounds like a terrible plan, sir. It is. But it is the only plan that might work. The war with the Terran Alliance ended 6 months later. Not because we won. Not because they won. But because both sides realized we were burning resources we could not afford to lose over territory that was not worth the cost. The peace treaty was signed aboard a neutral station. I was there representing the Vaxorian Empire's military interests. And yes, Captain Tommy Vale was there too, representing the Terran Alliance. We shook hands. Well, he shook my hand. I do not have hands exactly, but we managed. So, he said, what are you going to do now? Back to the moon base? Actually, they promoted me. I am teaching tactical doctrine at the military academy now, using you as a case study, among other things. I am a case study? That is fantastic. What do you tell your students about me? That you are the most dangerous kind of enemy. The kind that makes you think while you are fighting. And that if they ever face someone like you, their best option is to call for backup and pray. He laughed at that. Good advice. Hey, if you ever want to compare notes, maybe collaborate on a joint training exercise or something, could be interesting. You want to work together? Why not? War is over. Might as well learn from each other. Besides, I liked our conversations. You are one of the few enemy officers who actually tried to understand instead of just hating. I thought about it. A year ago, I would have refused. But I had learned something from Tommy Vale. Sometimes the crazy idea is the right idea. All right, let's do it. And that is how I ended up co-authoring a military tactics manual with the human who ruined my career. Life is strange like that. The book became required reading at both our academies. Students still argue about which species has the better approach to warfare. The Vaxorians say logic and discipline always win. The humans say adaptability and heart beat everything. They are both right. They are both wrong. That is the beautiful thing about having former enemies as colleagues. You learn that there is more than one way to solve a problem. As for Tommy Vale, last I heard he made general, still leading from the front, still bringing his people home, still doing things that should not work but somehow do. And me, I am still teaching, still trying to help the next generation understand that war is not just about weapons and tactics. It is about people, about caring enough to try, about being willing to look stupid if it means protecting those who count on you. That human at Gamma 7 taught me more in one battle than I learned in 12 years of service. He taught me that sometimes the enemy says retreat and you do not hear him, not because you are stubborn, not because you are stupid, but because your people are counting on you, and that matters more than anything else.